Hi, and welcome to ioversal, the video edition of ioversal's training classes for the audio-video production suite called Vertex. My name is Ingmar Lauer, and throughout this course, I'll teach you how to master every nook and cranny of Vertex. In this first video, Vertex 101, we just get started with Vertex. So I'll first guide you through the installation process. We'll talk about the various options on the start screen. We'll create a new project from scratch, get to know the user interface a little bit, and take a look at Vertex's library, where we finally will add some content from and play it right back for the first time. All right, let's get to it, class. To download the latest Vertex installer, go to ioversal.com and click on Free Download. Once you've entered your name and email address, click on Download Vertex and choose a destination where you want to save the installer file. I chose my desktop, and when I run the installer, I need to give it the necessary permission to write onto my hard drive. And speaking of hard drives, most users will probably expect an installation path to be shown here in the installer. But in this case, we need to define, preferably on our fastest SSD, the default project path for Vertex. And this becomes really important at a later point when we talk about where project data is stored and how our content is distributed between multiple systems. During installation, some Windows components like C++ redistributable packages are deployed. Now, Vertex itself does not need these packages, only a third-party component that is shipped out with Vertex. So if you have another version of these .NET or C++ packages already on your system, because one of your other applications requires this particular version, it would be best to skip the MS redistributable check in the advanced install options. If you are planning on using Vertex across multiple systems, it's a good idea to enable the network installer. Keep in mind that it requires a reboot after the initial installation. The setting of the VNC admin access, as well as the opening of the HTTP server ports in the firewall, are already enabled for your convenience. And if needed, you can tick this little box over here to run the installer as an administrator. Now, if you're happy with these options, click Install. And while this is running, let me show you the location of our installation path real quick. The location of the application folder is given and cannot be changed. Now, if you have already installed a previous version of Vertex, the installer will not override the existing application folder, but create a new folder for each version update. And being able to revert to an older version may come in handy at times. For instance, working with Vertex in a network session requires all systems to run the same version of Vertex. So it's always good to keep a couple of older versions of Vertex on your drive as a fallback when encountering a version mismatch with other systems in your network. Upon completion of the installation process, we have the additional option of running the aforementioned network installer, but keep in mind that it requires a Windows reboot if this is your first Vertex installation on that system. And should you run out of storage space one day, click this button to remove all previous versions of Vertex. Let's click the Exit button and take a look at our desktop, where the installer has placed not only a shortcut to the Vertex application itself, but also to an NDI streamer as well as a transcoder for your video content. And both operate in standalone as well as from within the Vertex application. Let's take a quick look at the system tray in the taskbar, where we can click on the little Vertex icon to open the settings for the Vertex service that is running in the background, enabling Vertex to be accessed remotely. From here, we can start and stop Vertex as well as configure Vertex's auto start options. Also, we can start the NDI streamer or the VNC server. If needed, you can use the shortcut to Windows Network Adapter settings here and turn off the automatic updates of the Windows operating system. This can be a real lifesaver when you're trying to run a show or a rehearsal and don't want to be delayed by the blue screen of doom. Our help options include the locating of Vertex's log folder as well as requesting remote support via TeamViewer. Furthermore, the service can be restarted or exited altogether from here. Now that we've successfully installed Vertex, let's double-click on the Vertex icon and start the application. By the way, let me point out that Vertex is fully compatible with both Windows 10 and 11. This is the start screen of Vertex. The top bar contains a main menu. Most of the items are grayed out at the moment because there's no project currently loaded. Of course, the help menu works. In the middle, we see what license edition is currently running. And right now it's set to trial mode because we haven't activated our license yet. The top bar's right side displays its connection status, as well as the Windows machine name that Vertex is using, next to Vertex's internal system ID. The IP address that the system is using is always in plain sight here. And clicking on License opens the license activation menu, which is currently underlined red because we're using the unlicensed yet fully functional trial version. The last item in our top bar is the system clock. Each new start of the Vertex application presents us with a tooltip of the day and a little GIF animation in the middle of our screen. And on the right side, we have a vast list that is always expanding of various YouTube tutorials. And if you want to dig deeper into the various workflows of Vertex, feel free to check out our sample projects. Those are curated by our solution experts, offering you some keen insights under the hood for some typical use cases and also complex scenarios. They're a great starting point when exploring the manifold possibilities of Vertex. On the left side of the screen, we have the most important items of the file menu, such as creating a new project or opening an existing project. The next item allows us to open a dialog window that connects us to a master in a multi-system configuration, but I'd rather talk about that at a later point. For now, let's make sure we're using the correct default network adapter. We can set it here in this dialog window. I'm using Wi-Fi right now for this demonstration, but to be honest, in a professional environment, you should rely on a fast Ethernet connection. Under Available Systems, we find all the systems in the network environment that have Vertex installed. But as you can see, there's only one system listed here, which is my system, due to the fact that I'm the only one running Vertex in this network environment right now. All right, let's create our first new project. When we click on New Project, the Windows File Explorer opens, allowing us to check that the project path is the same we set as a default project path in the beginning of this tutorial. Let's pick a name for our project. Let's call it Vertex 101. And as soon as we confirm with Enter, Vertex initializes our project, showing us a little blue progress bar. After the initialization process, Vertex's start screen switches to the user interface, which should look familiar to you if you've ever worked with any video compositing software before. See how the items of the main menu are no longer grayed out now that a project is loaded. In the middle of the top bar, right next to the name of Vertex's license edition, you see the name of the project we've just created. Another new addition to our system status is the little word master right next to the disconnected state. And when using Vertex in standalone, the master role is automatically assumed. On the left side of the user interface, you'll find Vertex's Project Explorer consisting of two panels. On the very left is the tree view that shows us the categories of all project items currently in use. And in the right panel, we see all the project items that Vertex has initialized. If we want to refine that view, we can click, for instance, on Canvas to just show the canvases. There's no content loaded yet, but there's one control view already. Let's check back in All View. Yep, we have a surface, a canvas, a control view, a sequence, and a visualizer. And these are all automatically pre-configured when you create a new project. When clicking on any item in Vertex, like clicking System 1 now, its properties will be shown in the Inspector window on the right. I call this workflow Select to Inspect. In the center of Vertex's user interface, you find the Render Editor window, giving you a visual workspace for your video compositing, as well as a preview for your system's video outputs. On the bottom, you can edit and manage your playbacks in the playback editing window. And further down, there's a status bar monitoring system health and giving system notifications, as well as quick access to Vertex's scripting engine via the command line in the corner. The little drop-down switches between standard and advanced view of all inspector properties, as well as context menu items. And in the very right corner, we have buttons for the privacy mode, audio mute, and full screen options. Before we wrap things up in this lesson, I'd like to take a look with you at Vertex's library by clicking on the tab next to Project Explorer. The library comes with a great deal of elements that can be added to the project, such as video effects, geometry modifiers, devices like projectors or lamps, or in and output devices such as MIDI or OSC. The next category consists of controls such as buttons, sliders, labels, pretty much everything you need to design and program your own user interface in Vertex's control view. And the last category in our library consists of sample content, such as an audio-video sync test, as well as some stills or some sounds. And all these content items can be added to our project either via a double click or per drag and drop. Let's take the ioversal logo, for instance. We just click and hold it and drag it onto our timeline. And there, Vertex creates a clip container that allows the content to be played back. If we take the playhead and move it onto the clip container, we see a preview of the image in our render editor. And if we have a video output connected to our system, then it will be displayed there as well. Now that we have added and previewed some content, let's take a look at the Project Explorer again. And now we see that the test content from the library has been added as an item to our project. If we select the content category, we see it's no longer empty, but lists now our test content. All right, we've come to the end of this first class of Vertex 101, and I think the time is almost up, so pretty soon the watermark of Vertex's trial version will appear, which is, oh, there it is, yeah. It is the only limitation of our fully functional trial version. In the next installment of iVersity, I'll show you how to get rid of this watermark by licensing your Vertex product. Until then, thanks for your attention. Class dismissed.